So welcome to this week's episode, which I have a very special guest with us this week, a woman that I've known for many years now. We've known each other for many years and who always has great insight. Suzannah, welcome with us this week.
Thank you, Sara. So excited that we finally made this happen.
Yes, because we had some calendars, interesting challenges in there to finally make this happen.
Yes.
But we're here, and I'm so thankful that you've accepted the invitation. So before we start anything, Suzannah, I know you. I put some information on your bio in the description of the video, but I'd like you to take a moment to introduce to people who is Suzannah Baum.
Thank you, Sara. Well, who is Suzannah Baum? Suzannah Baum is a communications and presentation skills trainer and coach and speakers who really helps people unleash their ultimate speaking potential. And I target my work to executives, to business professionals, to entrepreneurs, to authors, to experts of all kinds who really want to share their message, want to share their expertise, and they want to do it in a way that is meaningful and valuable to an audience, right? Because what I have found over the years is that it's not just enough to be a speaker, a presenter, a public speaker. The core need is to be able to speak and communicate in a way that makes your audience care. Right, that becomes more meaningful and relevant to them. So that's what I do, and I work really to help business professionals position themselves as leaders through more structured, more engaging, compelling presentations.
I love that because when we're a leader, when we're a professional, basically our number one tool are words.
Yes.
So, and we want to be really intentional on really what makes, a good communication. What makes a good leader is communication. So we might have the expertise, we might have the tools, but if we can't communicate that properly, then we're not going to have the impact, the influence, and hence the income that we also want.
Exactly.
So I'm curious. Obviously, because I'm going to take notes here, obviously. What are the mistakes that you see people do in a conversation, in a talk?
Okay. So, I see many mistakes, but the good news about these mistakes is how easily they can be fixed. But I don't want to give you the long list. I'll give you some of the top ones that I see recurring all the time. One of them has to do more with presentations, and one of them really more about general communications, leadership communications, executive communications, that kind of thing. But where it comes to presentations, over the years, I have met those who are in not always executive level, but confident people. And it's wonderful when you have confidence, but they have said to me when they find out what I do, they say, well, oh God, I don't need that because I'm confident about giving presentations. I don't feel nervous, so I don't need the help of a coach. And sometimes that just leaves me dumbfounded because I'm like, well, the coach is not just to help you feel better. The coach is to help you deliver a better message to your audience, because ultimately the audience doesn't care how you feel as the speaker or the presenter. They care about how you make them feel, right? They care about, how are you educating them? How are you inspiring them? How are you persuading them, right? What do you want your audience to learn, feel, and do? And which ultimately has nothing to do with how you feel and the confidence that you feel. So over the years, I did have one situation with one potential, prospect, someone who was referred to me from his CEO. It's just a quick story. A CEO who called me and said, listen, our chief financial officer needs a little bit of help because he gives all these presentations. Actually, it was the chief technical officer, always at conferences, always speaking, always explaining technical, detailed matters. And so the CEO called me and said, listen, he speaks all the time. He's not bad, but he does need a little bit of help, right? And so I just want to understand what you do, how you do it, and then I'll set you up on a phone call with him. So we had this conversation. They set me up with the CTO to have this conversation with him. And he was very resistant because he was like, well, I speak all the time. Yeah. And my audiences love me. So why would I want to work with you. Like, why would I want that? And of course, the first moment someone says that, it's like, okay, well, then we shouldn't work together, because if you don't see the value of constantly improving and constantly evolving your communication skills, your presentation style, and how you reach your audience, well, then there's nothing for us. But luckily, there are so many people who do value that and who do see the value, all the way from CEOs to executives who speak all the time. Often those are the ones who come to me the most and say, I have to speak to everyone. I'm at conferences. I have to speak to my board. I have to speak to my clients. I have to speak to my prospects. I have to speak to my team. I have to educate them. I have to inform them. I have to motivate them and inspire them. And how do I do it? Because the struggle often is, I give presentations, but nothing changes, right? They nod. Yeah, they nod at me. They say, yes, we got it. We know what we're supposed to do, but then nothing happens.
And
so
I love that, because there's often, that's it, a gap. So the people who are listening to it, like in my universe, the people who are in my universe tend to be highly educated, specialized entrepreneurs who have like an expertise, and they often talk from that point of view of their expertise. So, and that's where, if I talk from my point of view of my expertise, people, my client, and like when we talk about audience, we're not talking about doing a conference. An audience of one is an audience.
Yes.
So how do I move from information to transformation? And I think this, it's a great timing, I love how life happens, that, with all the pandemic and the COVID and everything this whole pandemic shifted people's priorities. So we're really moving from an era of transferring information to insight, and polishing our communication skills is so much more important now than ever before. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, we're moving to insight, and we're also moving to a need to connect even more. I think we've always had that, but if you cannot establish the connection and make your audience care about what you're talking about and make them see the value, then there's no connection, and there's no meeting. And that's why there are no results, right? That's why when you speak and people say, yeah, we'll do it, we're on it, we got it, but then things aren't changing and things aren't moving, is because they really didn't connect with the reason behind why they have to be doing something, the buy-in for that. So that's a really important piece also. And again, like you said, not just for presentations, but for conversations, for communications one-on-one, because sometimes we are just talking to our clients. Sometimes we are just talking to our boss, our team. We're speaking up at a board meeting, but there doesn't always mean it's like some giant public speaking event. It's how do you get the point across and answer why? Like, why is this important? Why are we doing this? And why should you care? And until we can create that connection where they understand the why, then things don't happen as quickly.
So is it fair if I recap or label mistake number one is that it's an intellectual conversation? It doesn't connect.
Correct. It's maybe too intellectual and less of a connection. Right?
And I think that's a huge mistake that I personally see very often.
Yeah. Well, because there are so many different, everybody's so different, their personality style and what they need from a speaker, how they need to hear a message, right? Some people need to hear a message very quickly, like, okay, give me the high level points. Other people really do want the details. Other people want to know, like, okay, how is this going to affect me and how I'm seen? So if I do what you're asking me to do, how will this change my life? Other people just really like to work in a team. Some people want to work alone. So really it's having an understanding of all these different needs and how people need to hear a message, but also, going deep into what is it that I am trying to get across? What expertise, what message do I need to get across? And how can I make that focused, clear, concise, and say it in a way that they understand why it's important and they understand why it's beneficial to them.
Okay, so if I unpack them, because I like things very, very tangible, mistake number 2 is gaining clarity on my message.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, two parts of it, which is just that we always have to be mindful of who is the audience I'm speaking to, what is their problem, the challenge, the issue, what do I need them to do, but also getting really clear on what it is you want to say, right? Mm-hmm. So if we can, so let me go into, maybe this is mistake number 2 or mistake number 3, which is putting too much information into a message. So you want to say one thing, here is my message. I want to convince my team of why we need to undertake this new strategic project. Now I'm going to tell them everything. I'm going to give them every statistic, every fact, every story. I'm going to just load them up. I'm going to dump all this information on them, and they will determine what they like from what I'm saying, what they don't like, and they'll run with it. But in effect, it's up to you as the speaker, number one, to really get clear first, like, what is that one essential message that I'm trying to get across that I need this group to leave with today, or this one person to leave with and fully understand, and then marry that. Like, you have to marry, what you as the presenter want to say with what the audience needs to hear. So you marry them both so that it becomes a proper communication, because when you just dump everything, you give them everything in a very, sometimes unstructured way, and expect that, the people who need to know will understand what they need to know, and the others will just leave it behind. But that's like a huge fallacy, because overwhelming the audience with so much information, everyone's going to leave going, whoa, what was that for me? What am I supposed to do? And then again, nothing changes. Right?
I know that. And it made me laugh because for 2 things. I recently did a conference, and another speaker, it was online, and another speaker that I know very well got to watch it. And he's like, hey, because we were at the same online event or the same symposium for a company. So he said, hey, how about, after each of our talks, we watch each other and then we give each other feedback. And his feedback to me was exactly what you just said. He goes, Sarah, really? It's great, but there was just so much information. He goes, I don't even know where people can start with all of that. He goes, it's all great information, but it's too much. And when I think of many of my client meetings that I've had in the past, I've worked on this, where I would just give so much information. And when we want to help, that is often a mistake that we do. We want to give everything. But by giving everything, and like you said, not necessarily always super structured, the brain just goes, there's just so much information, so much stuff. I don't even know what to do. So they just shut down.
Shut off. I don't know what to do. Too much. Forget it. I'm out. Right. And then you lost them. And it's hard to get them back sometimes with that. And what's even harder, so what happens also is that when you, and I'm not saying this is you, Sarah, because I've heard you speak and I think you're fascinating all the time. But what you do is that there's also a trust issue. So if you become known as that person who gives too much information, you overwhelm, there's no structure, there's just everything goes in every direction, there's simply too much, the audience won't want to hear you next time. They won't want to listen next time. They'll be like, not this person. Like, they're going to just overload me and expect that I'm going to know what to do next. And that's not the person you want to be, right? So we always have to be mindful that with every communication, we're building trust with our audience for the next communication and the next communication and the next. And if you become known as the speaker who doesn't give the value and who isn't clear enough and who speaks in circles, then they won't want to listen to you in the future. Right? It affects your professional credibility in that sense. So that's the horrible thing, is you could be just like an expert, a giant expert, tons of knowledge, tons of expertise, and a great background. But if you can't put your message together in a way that makes sense to the audience, in a way that they can accept it and know what to do with it, then it's wasted, right? Then how can you get that expertise across if the audience is not receiving it the way you want it?
And I like it because, again, when we talk about audience, let's put this in a business perspective where an entrepreneur is meeting a client and giving you so much information
Yep.
And the client doesn't take action after because they don't know where to start. And often the language mistake number one is like so intellectual, so above their head that they can't do it. So the language and the information is above their head. There's so much of it. And then the entrepreneur says, well, they're not taking action on my recommendation. They're not doing or sending back the form or doing this. And I don't know why, but I call them to book another meeting and they don't call me back. So that too, that overwhelming, because what I find that when we send out too much information, there's no transformation.
And, you know, and that's very common with sales conversations, because you want to give your audience everything. You may only have one chance, and there's this pressure that you need to get this across. You need to tell them all the important things. And even if they start getting overwhelmed, it's almost like, well, my job is to share this information. Here it is. Like, take it anyways. Even if the person's going, wait, it's too much. It's too much. No, it's too much. Yeah. Well, and that happened to me a couple of months ago, that I got a demo on a product that I was looking at, that a couple of my colleagues and friends are using. I don't want to give too many details on it, but it was, so I reached out. They were like, great, we'll set an hour out for a demo. And already I was like, does it have to be an hour? Like, already it feels like that's going to be a lot of information. But anyways, I understand this is their process, right? So their process is a 1 hour demo where they give me, and we're going to talk about this, and this. Halfway through, I was already getting overwhelmed. And I think I gave him the signs. I said, wow, it sounds like a lot. Wow, I'm just really not sure if I'm able to, how I would do this myself, how I would accommodate. And I said it, and it was like, well, you know, there's ways that we help you, and we'll talk about how we help you, but let me show you like the next feature. And the more he talked, the more I was like, I can't, like, and there was a certain point where I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't follow anything that he's saying anymore. And I understand he had a process that he needed to share with me. He needed to go through the sales demo, but you also need to be able to step back and connect with the person, go, okay, I hear what you're saying. Like, you may have to be able to pivot and go off script just so that you can better connect with the person, because without that connection, it doesn't go anywhere. And now this guy's been calling me. I know it's a great product. He's been calling, going, you want to follow up? And I'm like, I don't even want to have a conversation with you anymore.
I don't want it. Like, now next time it's going to be like a 2-hour thing, you know? It's like,
yeah. Like, I want you to hear what I'm saying, which is what my challenge is, because I need you to be able to adapt to my needs. I'm the audience in this stage. So, you know, whenever I'm in these situations, usually I'm the one teaching and training and coaching from the speaker side. So whenever I'm on the receiver side, I'm always like, well, this is great information for me. Like, this is great for clients, because I know how, and I mean, I'm not necessarily the typical person. Everybody, like I said, everybody's very different in how they react. And some people can get out of the exact same demo and go, I loved every second of every detail, right? I'm not that person. There are some people who are, and it's not good or bad, it's just different. But it's you know, as the speaker or as the communicator, as the leader who is communicating, you need to be able to figure out those cues also, and where you need to shift so that you can understand how do you need to say it differently now, because the person in front of you needs the message differently.
Oh, I love it, because yes, this applies if you're meeting with a client, a potential client, if you're meeting with your team, anybody who you are trying to influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to be conscious, and we want to be conscious. And I think that's a trap where many experts we fall into, because we have a lot of knowledge, and we want to help, and we want to share the knowledge. But it's like drinking out of a fire hose, you know? It's like, and it's frustrating for the experts, right? Like, we want to share. It's like the service based. I want to help you. I want to help you now. Let's cram in a lot. Let's hit the ground running. But we also need to be mindful that some people really need to take it in stages. Some people need it in a different way, and that it's therefore up to us to figure out what this audience of 1 or 2 or 5 or 100, what they really need to hear from us, and how much information we can give them at one time. So I'm doing a conference later on this afternoon. Maybe I'll check my sales pin, my PowerPoint deck before,
Awesome.
just to make sure. So, as a coach, how would you suggest / recommend that we prepare a presentation that we want to give? Again, audience of 1, audience of 100, it's the same approach. How would you suggest, like, kind of maybe a step-by-step, or, like a flow of preparation? What would you recommend?
Well, one of the things that I teach with all of my clients, whether it's coaching, training, I have a specific framework that I use for structure. And so back like 7-8 years ago, I was just doing public speaking training. So I would come into companies and I would do the basics, anything that you can find on Google today, how to be a good speaker. So body language and basic structure, and how do you deal with your nerves, and what about the gestures and so on. And I found that eventually, you get to a point where you're like, my audiences don't need this anymore. Like, and I want to get to an audience, a more expert audience who speaks more. And it took a while to really figure out what is missing. And so as I started to talk to executives and corporate professional people, they were saying, really, what's missing is I need to be able to focus and structure my thoughts, and I need to engage an audience. Like, these were the top two across the board. I need help with the structure so that they can feel more engaged, and I can actually connect and get what I need from them, and they can understand what I'm trying to say, and so on. So in 2014, I built this. It was like, and it was literally what changed my business, is a whole structure framework system. I built an online course around that, but basically, whether you take the online course or not, it's called the Diamond Speech Structure Flowchart because of the way it's shaped. But it lays out step by step all the steps towards a structured, engaging presentation, where at the beginning, you're not just introducing the concept, but you're establishing the connection. You're getting clear on what the challenge or issue the audience is facing, so that, so that you could understand the questions you need to ask of yourself right at the beginning, so that you can establish the connection at the beginning of the presentation. Because if you don't, well, then you could say whatever, no one's going to care, right? Yeah. So it was really about, at the beginning, how do you want to connect with the audience? You want to make them feel like you understand who they are, what they're going through, what their daily lives are, what they need. Why are you talking about what it is you're talking about? What is the value? Why are they there? Like, why do they have to sit through this meeting? Well, here's why.
Context.
Yeah, here's why from like the business perspective. Here's why from the personal perspective. Why is it important to you and me that we are here right now? So often this will involve, knowing, really understanding this audience. So that's the first piece of the introduction is everything included in that. And how do you make them see your roadmap of the presentation based on, like, narrowing it down to one sentence? Like, I'm here to talk to you about this thing so that we can do this, or so that you can understand this, right? So how do you link the essential message of what you want to say to it's important to them? So then as you go down the speech, or continue in the speech, then you can share the expertise, the key points, but again, in a structured way. Give them everything on your audience at once. Like, where do you put in the stories? Where do you put in statistics, visuals? How do you use them? And then as you get close to the conclusion of your speech, how do you integrate the call to action, and how do you help them see, like, what could be in their future? What is the vision if only you do what we're saying you should do here? Yeah, like as in almost any TED Talk, you'll have this at the end. And I know every TED speaker goes through this rigorous coaching process, but at the end of so many TED Talks, if you've noticed, so many of them end with, in a world where ... or what if we could, blah, blah. And those are meant to trigger us to be able to see the future. Like, here's the future. If only we did what I just talked about, this is what the future could look like. And so that's super powerful in a business context too, because that helps us recreate and reconnect the audience to, okay, so all the stuff that I just talked about, here's what lies in store for us if we go ahead and implement or do or say or change or whatever. So this is all part of this diamond speech structure flowchart. If any of your listeners want to get in touch with me for a copy, I mean, there are ways that I could send it over, or we could talk about it a little bit more. But if anybody really needs to apply this into their day-to-day, then we can also have a conversation about what that would look like for them too.
I love it, because yes, it's like, so if I reframe it, that's it, like putting context before putting content, and then what is the outcome?
Yeah.
So taking even a moment and just, okay, before a client meeting, before I talk with my team, before I meet with a potential client or a potential business partner or a potential center of influence, structure your conversation with that framework that you just shared. And that is how we stay consistent, we stay aligned, we stay focused, and the other person, which is the important part, they get it.
Yeah. Well, something that so many speakers or communicators fall into, this PowerPoint trap, where we have to meet a client, or we have to give a presentation, or we have to share something in a meeting. They start with PowerPoint. They put it all on PowerPoint, and then they get to the meeting, and then they not just read the PowerPoint, but they speak to the PowerPoint. They just go over everything that the PowerPoint says, but they haven't put in, like you said, they haven't put in that before stage. What do I need the audience to learn? What do I need the audience to feel about what I'm saying? What do I need them to do? Like, what is my end game here, so that I could lead them in the right direction? Because the temptation, once you have your PowerPoint in front of you, you're just going to follow your PowerPoint. And it's going to be very difficult. Yeah, very difficult to move around the PowerPoint. But if you just use it as like something to consult, and you are very clear on what your roadmap needs to be before you even get into that meeting, like what you need out of that meeting, you don't have to waste your time or their time just going through pieces of a PowerPoint, but really sharing the message, right? And really getting them to where you want them to get.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because communication, like I was saying, and like if we go full circle, communication is our main tool. So it doesn't matter what type of business that you're in, really. If you can't communicate it in a consistent way that's going to get the other person to take action, your business is not going to go forward.
Absolutely.
Team is not going to go forward. So I love how you bring that framework into how do we structure a talk, a conversation, a meeting that's coming up. And yes, if you want to do a conference, probably we should have had this talk before I did that other conference a few weeks ago.
Sure, you were fabulous.
Oh, but I wanted to help so much. But it was so funny. The other speaker was like, man, there's just so much information in there. Like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency to do that.
We do. Because you're in a service-based business, and you have the expertise, and you want to help people. You want to help them grow. You want to help them learn. You want to help them be more successful, because that makes you more successful, right? It's all just this wonderful cycle. Yeah. But it takes like a very conscious effort to stop ourselves and go, okay, I can't say that thing is like this one thing. Oh, I love it. It's so powerful. It's so wonderful. I can't say it because there's not enough time. Yeah. Right? There's not enough time. It's too much based on all the other things that I'm talking about. And it really forces you to be choosy about what it is you're talking about. And it forces you to stay on message, right? Because if you can come across, if you're very clear on what is that one essential message I need them to walk away with, then all the other pieces, even though they're brilliant, like they just don't fit. And they'll fit in the next one. They'll fit in the next. There is a place for them, but not in every conversation and every presentation.
That's such awesome.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So I know you've been doing this for many, many years. And when I do interview guests, I have a bucket of surprise questions.
Oh my goodness.
So yes,
Okay.
well, they're as much as a surprise for you as for me. Well, I know the questions that are in, but so these are questions so we can learn more on the human behind the coach.
Oh, the answer is chocolate. Okay.
The answer is always chocolate, you know? So I'm going to pick 3 questions, and they're all about you. And the answer, keep them to 1 word, 1 sentence, nice and short. But it's to help us understand who's Suzannah.
Okay. No big explanation. 1 word, 1 sentence. Got it.
1 sentence, something. Okay. Are you happy? Ready?
Yes.
All right. So, I like this. Who is the person who inspires you the most and why?
Oh my God.
I love the surprise questions.
Oh my God. There are so many who inspire me. You know, there are I don't want to get too detailed. There are a few women in the speaking industry who I have just been watching for years, and they are experts. They are so well trusted, and they are so well thought of. And I mean, I don't know if I should mention their names here.
I mean, just pick 1 name and 1 reason why that person.
Okay, so you know what? So I'll pick the one who I've been watching ever since day 1 of my business. Her name is Patricia Fripp. She's very well known in the presentation skills, sales presentations. She is so very polished. She is so good with her words. She is so deliberate about her words, and she's all about the structure and the organization and making it powerful and meaningful to the audience. So I will say I've been watching her right from the beginning, from day 1.
And I like the word deliberate.
Yes.
Because we want to be deliberate with our talks.
Yes.
Love it. Ready for question number 2?
Yes, I'll try to be a little less chatty on that one.
No worry. What is 1 thing that you would love to do, but you never dared to do it yet?
You know what? So this isn't it's not such a crazy thing.
I didn't say crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Dared to do.
Well, you said dared to do, so that makes me feel like I have to have extra courage for it. But I guess there's always something holding me back. Not sure why, but I would love to just ride. You know, at one point I thought it was a motorcycle, but then I downgraded it to a Vespa, but a red Vespa. I would love to just ride around in a red Vespa. That's what I would. Yeah.
In Italy?
Well, that's where I was inspired. That's where I saw it for the first time. I saw these women driving these shiny, beautiful Vespas with their little pencil skirts and their high heels. And I was like, and their fancy purses, going to work. And I was like, what is this fabulousness? What, you can ride these to work with skirts and heels and everything. And ever since then, I was like, yep, Vespa, but it would be red.
Awesome. Ooh, I can't wait to see you on a red Vespa at one point. All right, the last and final surprise question. What makes you mad?
Oh, mad?
Yeah. Things that you're like, oh, I don't like that.
In life, what makes me mad is...
and it can't be your husband leaving the toilet seat up.
No. I think what makes me mad is when I see people yelling at service people, like waiters or people who work at the drive-through or whatever, because they're frustrated that their order isn't right or something is taking too slow, and they get so angry and they yell at the people who are serving them. I mean, I understand impatience and whatever, but I don't understand unkindness to certain levels. So that really makes me mad. And when I see that and I'm next in line, I'm going to be like, hey, how are you? You're doing a great job. Here's an extra tip. That guy was such a jerk, wasn't he? Just to help make the people feel better. Cause I back in my day when I was scooping ice cream and waitressing and stuff, when people were rude to me, it was really, it really crushed me. And so I I really feel bad, and that makes me mad when people are unkind like that.
Well, one more reason why I know we get along so well, because unkindness for me is,
Yeah.
I will actually tell the person who was unkind to the other person, but that is who I am, you know?
Yes.
So even more reason why I understand why we get along. Suzannah, thank you for taking the time to be with us today, taking the time to go also provide us with, bringing consciousness on the mistakes that we do, that some of us do, and I'm sure many people can relate on many of the tips that were in there, bringing in a framework that we can start using to have more impactful conversation. Before we go today, and letting know who is the human behind the coach. And before we go, where can people find you online?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, my website. It's all across the board, SuzannahBaum.com, SuzannahBaum. But I think you have that in your bio, how my name is spelled. So you can find me in all those places. Reach out, connect with me, say hello, call, email. If ever anyone needs help or just to talk through a presentation or prepare themselves for what's coming up, beginning of the year, a lot of people do that, but all throughout the year, like that's, beginning of the year, I often get like a rush of people who are like, resolution 2020, this year's going to be different. But you know what, but sometimes people are triggered because they have something coming up, or because they just gave a presentation or had a presentation or a communication that went very badly. And they're like, okay, I got to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I am ready to bring in the help. So like your clients, they bring you in because they're like, okay, something's not right. And thank goodness for these people who have the mindset of, I want help, and I'm open to receiving help in a different way. And so often it's because something bad has happened, or something they're really nervous about, or they don't want to repeat, that they call me and they say, okay, help me make this next presentation better. Help me change how people see me, uplift my reputation, my visibility, my credibility. And so that's what it's all about, right?
Perfect. Thank you so much for being
Sarah. We finally did this, and I love chatting with you. You're so much fun.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you liked this episode. If you did, please make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check out these other videos that I think would probably interest you.